Hi everyone, this is Marty at Pezzadoodle Designs, and I am here with another video sponsored by favecrafts.com. And today I want to talk about using sketches to make scrapbook layout pages. There's a lot of different things that you can do with the sketches, and I like to use sketches because it gives me a jumping off point. I will spend an incredible amount of time just trying to figure out what I want to do before I ever actually do anything. And for me, I have limited time to work, so I don't want to do that. So I love to use sketches as a way to get me going with the actual creating the page so that I can get more done. In addition, without the use of sketches, I find that all of my pages begin to look exactly the same. And that's a very boring scrapbook. So, I have a sketch here. This sketch is from Page Maps. It's a website on the internet. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. I have been using Page Maps for years. I don't know when she started doing Page Maps, but I've been scrapbooking for about 5 years, and I think I've been using Page Maps for most of that. But we're going to start out with this sketch here. You have two 12 by 12 pages, and if you've never used a sketch before, we're going to go through some of the basics. On the sketch, you see where she has laid out where you would put photos. It has the size of the photos. And then you have pattern papers, you have embellishments, you have a title piece, a spot for journaling. So she really takes all of the guesswork out of it for us. Now, how do you interpret this? How do you make it your own? You can work straight from this sketch. Do it exactly the way it's laid out here. Size your photos. I print my own photos off. I do that because I like having the control of what size my picture is, how it's cropped, the lighting, and all of that. And I'll often add lettering or something like that to the photo. So when I have a group of photos I want to do, and in this case I'm going to do some photos of my daughter's 4th birthday cake. So I look through those photos. I choose one that's going to be this larger focal photo. And then I have 5 options for smaller photos. One is vertical. These are horizontal, and this one is horizontal. Now, I also have 2 pattern papers. This is one which has a large pattern on it, and then in the background you have another one which has a smaller pattern on it, and then we've got these embellishments and these other things going on. So when I sized my photos, I realized that really all I wanted to include on this page was a focal photo, which is actually vertical, and then I had 3 photos that would fit in this space. So I had this blank spot and this blank spot. Some people would get frustrated. I know in the beginning I got frustrated. So I'm going to show you how to make this sketch fit what you want to do. Okay, my camera can't quite get the entire 12 pages in, but we're going to work with it. So here's my photos. As I said, I only have 3 of these smaller horizontal and then my one main focal one, which is vertical. But that's okay. I can work with this because I love stamps, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. If you've not used stamps, I encourage you to start using them. But I've decided to replace one of those photos with this cute little Stamping Bella stamp. I've had it for ever and ever. Colored it up with colored pencils. It's got a little liquid pearl cherry on top. And I cut it to size to fit in with the other pictures. So now I have 4 photos, or sort of photos. So we have our photos. Now, let's start laying out our pieces. As I mentioned, we have 2 pattern papers. So I dug around and dug around. I like to start with my pattern paper because it kind of tells me what I'm going to do with the entire rest of my layout. So I have this cute cupcake paper, since my layout is about the cakes that we did for her birthday. And then I have this coordinating pink polka dot glittery paper. They both have glitter on them. If you can have glitter, then of course that's always best, right? Now let's look at our layout here. We have on this side, the pattern paper is on top of this paper. So I'll lay those out. So that I can get an idea, start getting an idea of how this is going to look. Don't glue anything down until you have your entire layout just the way you want it. Now on this side, let's see if I can adjust. Well, I'll just pull it over. On this piece, on this side, our pattern paper, our larger pattern is underneath the smaller pattern, so we'll do that. We want to line these 2 pink polka dot patterns up. Alright, so there's our basic. Now photos. If you just lay your photo on, it can get lost. So what I like to do, especially on my focal one, is give it a mat. Now I could just cut a slightly larger rectangle and leave it at that. But if you're like me and you're creative, and this is where you get your creative juices flowing, and this is what feeds your creative soul, you want to get fancier. So I have a Cricut machine, which I used for this. You can use a border punch. You can use Edgeability's dies by Spellbinders, or the edge dies, the border dies by Sizzix. Anything you want, but you can see how that just brings that photo out more. On the other side, I am just going to lay them out. And again, you're just getting an idea of overall look and placement. So get them as close to what you want as you can. Now, on this page, if you look, there's this other border here. So I wanted to match that to the border that I have on my picture to give my pages some cohesion, so that they match well. I cut these also on my Cricut. Again, just use the same border, whatever border you decide to use. For your picture on the other page, use it here also. So now we've got that, and it helps kind of set apart and define our pictures over here. So we've got a good start going here. And now, what do we want to do next? We have this photo piece that we don't have anything over here for. We have our title here that I have not done yet, which would go over here, and our journaling. I also like to use die cuts in place of photos or photo spaces. So again, with my Cricut, or use pre-made die cuts, use stickers, use chipboard. You don't have to have a Cricut to do this. But I made some balloons that I'll place over here. And I want to do that because I like the balance of the sketch, so I want to stay somewhat true to that. And then for my title piece, You can certainly cut the scallop circle and then the inner circle and maybe print out your title or something like that. But I wanted to continue with my die cuts. And so I have a cartridge that had this birthday bash die cut. So I decided that would make a really cute title piece. So I placed that over here. And then I wanted to just throw in one more because it was really cute. It was on the same cartridge. It's a little party hat. And I'm just going to throw it down here. Now, sometimes I include journaling and sometimes I don't. I probably should do more. But I often have a hard time figuring out what to journal about, which is odd because I don't have a hard time figuring out what to talk about because I talk constantly. But if you notice, our title piece is kind of over our journaling and the journaling sort of follows it. So I got a piece of paper and I made myself a little template. And then I went on my computer because I hate my handwriting. And I made one text box here and then another one here. But once you type in them, you can't really tell. They're two separate ones. And that way it fits nicely under there. And I can put my little party hat down here. And I have a nice little journaling box. So the last thing, well, let me go back for a minute. If you do die cutting yourself, and you may or may not already know this, or maybe you have never done die cutting yourself, but you want to start, there's lots of good machines out there, lots of good designs. Make your designs, give your designs some pizzazz, your die cuts. So here, first and foremost, I ink all of my edges until I get to the really super duper small pieces. Also, I added glitter. My pattern paper has glitter, so I added stickles to my die cuts as well. Both regular stickles and ice stickles. Ice stickles don't get enough love, I don't think. So I really encourage you guys to try them out. They came out with some fabulous new colors recently too. So that just gives everything a little extra pizzazz. Did the little dots of my one polka dot balloon. And it ties it in with the glitter on your pattern paper. Now, before you glue anything down, I also encourage you to ink the edges of your larger pieces. I've inked the edges of my photo mat. I inked the edges of my border piece. I also inked the edges of my journaling box. Now, this is not something that people necessarily look at your layout and go, wow, I really love how she inked those edges. It's something that your eye and your mind subconsciously takes note of, and it makes your design look much more put together. So I really encourage you to do that. So I am going to ink the last of my large pieces of pattern paper, and then we'll get back to working on our layout with these final smaller embellishments and the rickrack you see across here. Okay, I've inked the edges of my larger pieces of paper and I've set everything down. It may look like it's glued, but it is not. Because seriously, my first urge is to just start gluing everything, but we have one last thing that we want to make sure we take care of, and that is the rickrack and the little small tiny embellishments. And then if you look really closely, there's a bit of an edge of another paper right here. And I've put this yellow piece in that spot. I could have used pattern paper. I liked the yellow. It was in the candle flames and the balloons, so I picked it back up again. And so we need to do our last bit of embellishing. Now, I could have used rickrack, but I decided I really wanted this pink and green ribbon. So I've placed that in the 3 spots on the sketch, and there's one over here. You can can barely see it. And then we have these little things at one end of each ribbon. So I've got a collection of buttons down here. I love buttons. You can use flowers right there. You can use real buttons. You can use die cut buttons. Maybe you have a set of stickers that are really cute with cupcakes or birthday cakes. So use your imagination. You can, again, do anything you want. Just because it looks like buttons does not mean it has to be buttons. I, however, personally love buttons. So that's what I'm using here. Now this ribbon stretches across the 2 pages, so before I glue it, I'll trim that in half. And then I'm just going to make some button stacks that I'll place right there. And sometimes I thread my buttons and sometimes I don't. I know for some people it's a really big deal. For me, it's just not that big a deal. So just play around with your embellishments. See what you like, see what you feel like doing, and place those. And then look at your layout. Really give it a good look, and ignoring the sketch. I know we've been working with it all this time. Ignoring the sketch, look at your layout and see, do you really, really like what you've got? Does it need anything? Do you need to add something to it? You know, there's some blank spaces. You could put more here. You could put more here. You can add anything you want. You have the basic sketch. You can still see the sketch at play here. And I like using the sketches because I have a nice balanced layout. It's very pleasing. I knew that when I looked at the sketch that I liked the way it was laid out. So I am ready to start gluing. And I really hope that you guys found this useful. I love sketches. They make things so much easier, but I know some people find it difficult to work with them and make them really your own. And of course, if we had decided as we were going along to change it so that you didn't even recognize it anymore, that's okay too, but you had something to get you started, and that's what I want to stress. Don't waste your precious scrapping time trying to figure out what you want to do. Use a sketch and jump right in. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much. Now also be sure and check out all the other fabulous videos and free tutorials and tips and ideas on favecrafts.com. And I'll see you back for another one.